Forget everything the official reports told you about the fall of civilization. The news anchors, the government broadcasts, they were all lying. They wanted you to believe it was a random plague, a natural disaster, but the truth is far more terrifying. The truth has a name, and tonight, you're going to learn why the monsters who hunt in the dark started whispering it. In the chaos of those first hours, we meet Paul, a man scrambling for supplies when the sirens scream to life. This is it, the moment it becomes real. He doesn't hesitate, he runs, dodging through streets choked with black smoke, flinching at distant explosions, his heart pounding a single mantra: get to the boys. Against all odds, he makes it to a lonely house on the edge of town, his sanctuary, his prison, for the next 15 years. Fast forward, the boys are gone. In their place are Joseph and Thomas, teenagers forged in silence and fear. Their entire existence is a rigid clockwork, scavenge by day, vanish by night. As the sun dips, Joseph bolts the windows. Their dog, Rocco, is hustled inside. Paul stands watch, his face hardening when Thomas finally appears. He was late, again. Thomas argues he was helping their neighbors, the Roses, on their farm. But in this world, kindness is a liability. A lecture follows. One more time, Paul warns, his voice like stone, and you never leave these boundaries again. Tension crackles between the brothers. A mocking comment from Joseph ignites a full-blown fight. Paul breaks it up. We are men, not animals. But later, as they pretend at a normal life over a chessboard, Rocco starts growling at the floor, scratching frantically. It's an omen. A heartbeat later, bang! A violent impact shakes the front door. Paul and Thomas sprint, throwing their weight against the wood as something unnatural tries to force its way in. The pounding is methodical, terrifying, and then it stops. Joseph, who did nothing to help, reveals he was listening, timing it. The attacks weren't random. 10 seconds, then 20, then just one. A test, he deduces. Then a real attempt. The last one was just frustration. These things aren't mindless. They're learning. The next day, the evidence is carved into their door. Deep, savage claw marks. Their main defense is failing. A supply run is mandatory. While Thomas chops wood for repairs, Paul finds Joseph in the barn, secretly wrestling with a broken down car. I'm tired of being scared, Joseph confesses. He's building an escape. Paul, with a flicker of pride, makes two adjustments. The engine roars to life. For one glorious, reckless hour, they are free, a driving lesson that feels like flying. But reality crashes back. The windows need work. Paul sends both boys to the river to salvage materials. Thomas, furious. He was promised a trip to the farm, to see Charlotte, the girl who makes him forget the apocalypse. He blames Joseph. Dad only sent me to protect you, he snaps. In a defiant rage, Thomas jumps out at the farm, telling Joseph to pick him up later. Alone at the house, Paul finishes the door. He takes a moment to breathe and sees it. A black, oily hole in the rocks near a waterfall. Something's been digging. Meanwhile, Joseph is in a rusted shipwreck, tied to the car for safety. He finds a forgotten, mundane treasure, a pinup magazine, that leaves him stunned for a second. Then, a pile of trash erupts with swarming insects. They dive for his skin. He barely escapes. At the farm, Thomas's true motive is clear: Charlotte. Their connection is a spark in the gloom. She shows him a rope tied to a tree, her childhood tether to safety. They share wild theories about the world's end, a fleeting moment of lightness. But as the sun bleeds red, time runs out. A quick, tight hug from Charlotte, and Thomas is sprinting for home. Back at the house, Paul finds only Rocco. Panic sets in. Joseph gets the car started but sees no sign of Thomas at the farm. He drives on, alone. Thomas, running desperately, slips and plummets into a deep, dark crevice. When Joseph arrives home alone, Paul's fear turns to action. Lock everything down. He and Rocco vanish into the twilight forest. Thomas wakes up in the pit, body screaming in pain. The flick of a lighter reveals his nightmare, a pale, grotesque hand slamming through a wall hole, followed by an ear-splitting screech. He stabs it. It retreats. But then, a second creature drops from above, grabbing his face, suffocating him, until Paul smashes into the monster, pulling it off and ending it. They find a tunnel leading deeper in. With creatures closing in, they block the entrance, planning to wait for dawn. But the ground begins to tremble. The monsters aren't just above them, they're below. Dirt avalanches sealing them in. As the crevice shakes and Rocco barks wildly, Paul makes a choice. He jams a lit flare into a hole rupturing the floor. The creatures reach up, and he ignites the fuel. The blast saves them, but Paul takes the full force, his body slamming against the rock. At the house, Joseph hears the walls groan. He formulates a desperate, brilliant plan. He sits before the weakened door, a rope tied to his chair, and pretends to sleep. A clawed hand works a board loose. A long, probing nail extends, testing his face. Joseph doesn't flinch. The creature slithers inside, and he yanks the rope. A cage crashes down from the ceiling. Trapped. Joseph covers it and finally sleeps. Morning brings no relief. His family is missing. He takes the car to search. In the crevice, Thomas has dug them out, dragging his burned, unconscious father. Rocco hears the car and leads Joseph back in a heart-stopping reunion. They get Paul to his bed, alive but barely. As they argue about what to do, Thomas finally sees the covered cage. He pulls the blanket back. Light floods in, and the creature inside writhes in agony. Joseph slams the cover back. "The light hurts them," he gasps. He's been studying its patterns. "Last night it took only 8 seconds to enter. Their behavior is changing, accelerating. Maybe it's revenge," Thomas suggests. "We killed a bunch in that cave." But Joseph coldly corrects him. "We didn't. Dad did." To prove he's not a liability, Thomas tries to kill the caged monster. They struggle. The cage breaks. The creature escapes, hiding under the bed. When it emerges, Rocco's barking triggers it. It transforms, attacking. Joseph tackles it. Thomas brings an axe down. It's over. Joseph takes the corpse to the barn, dissecting it while bugs gather to watch. But the creature's secrets remain locked inside. Thomas has one last idea: the farm. The Roses have real medicine. Joseph knows it's hopeless, but is forced to go. At the farm, their worst fears are confirmed. Charlotte's parents look at Paul's broken body and say no. They can't spare the resources. They will, however, take Thomas in. The rejection is absolute. Joseph walks away, a storm of grief and rage. Thomas follows. "This is your fault!" Joseph snarls, blaming Thomas's recklessness for their father's fate. Something in Thomas snaps. He shoves Joseph down, his hands closing around his brother's throat, squeezing, until the horror of his own actions hits him. He lets go, collapsing back, two brothers shattered in the dust, completely alone, as the shadows begin to move again. The brothers are shattered, their father is dying, and the farm that was supposed to be their salvation just gave them the most brutal no imaginable. Now get ready, because the final act of this story is where everything explodes. Joseph doesn't wait. He loads his unconscious father into the car and speeds off into the night, leaving a heartbroken Thomas behind. But family ties are stronger than pride. Soon Joseph is back, swallowing his anger to rejoin Thomas at the farm. For a moment, there's a flicker of peace. Charlotte shares real, home-cooked food with Thomas, luxuries he's only heard of in stories. She shows him her treasures. For the first time in his life, Thomas isn't just surviving, he's living. They share a sweet, tender kiss, which is instantly shattered by Charlotte's father. He sends her away. The message is clear. This isn't a love story, it's a tragedy waiting to happen. As Joseph heads back to their house, he sees something terrifying. The sheep are stampeding. The ground is covered in fresh dirt mounds. The creatures aren't just coming, they're tunneling. They're right underfoot. He arrives home to a nightmare. A trail of disturbed earth leads right to the foundation. His blood runs cold. They're not just near the house, they're beneath it. After tending to Paul, Joseph's mind goes into overdrive. He starts barricading windows, gathering tools, preparing for a last stand. Then he steps on a rug and plummets through a hidden hole in the floor. His worst fear is confirmed. They're not outside, they're inside the walls. Back at the farm, Thomas is desperate. He's searching the kitchen for medicine, anything to save his dad. Charlotte finds him. Seeing his agony, she makes a choice. She gives him the medicine. They share a grateful, desperate hug. Thomas promises to return, but a shadow listens. That promise is overheard. As Thomas tries to slip away, a farmhand's gun is in his face. "Thief!" the man snarls. Thomas's pleas fall on deaf ears. He's dragged to the barn, tied up, and country music is blared to drown out the sounds of what comes next. A man takes aim at Thomas's legs, and the ground opens beneath him. He disappears into the earth. The shot goes wild. Chaos erupts. A creature bursts from the hole. Men scream. The barn becomes a slaughterhouse. In the main house, Charlotte's parents wake to strange sounds. Her father lights a candle, and a creature slams into the room. The candle falls. Flames lick the walls instantly. It's a frenzy of blood and fire. The monster leaps from father to mother. Charlotte in her room hears the unthinkable, her parents being murdered. When the silence becomes more terrifying than the noise, she emerges. A trail of blood leads her to the bathroom, where the creature stands, her mother's body grotesquely fused to its back. The barn is an inferno. Men are being picked off one by one. Thomas, tied to a post, throws his weight, snapping the wood. He's free, just as a creature lunges for him. Bang! Charlotte saves him, shotgun in hand. Her home is burning. Her parents are gone. There's only one place left. "Take me to your house," she says. Joseph is in a race against time. He's shoving furniture into the hole in his floor, a flimsy plug in a dam about to break. He kisses his father's forehead, a final goodbye. Then he braces for the end, but the door bursts open, and it's Thomas and Charlotte. Relief floods Joseph. "I need your help," he admits. And in that moment of unity, Paul's eyes flicker open. He takes the medicine. The fire is back in his gaze. "Keep fighting," he rasps. Joseph unveils his insane plan. Burn it all down. They gather every gas can, every explosive. They drag an old freezer inside. As Thomas and Charlotte board up the last windows, Joseph builds a funeral pyre in the living room, dousing it in fuel. On top, he places his father's lit cigarette, a slow-burning fuse. Then, the assault begins. The furniture in the hole starts to rumble. A creature drops down the chimney into Paul's room. Another claws its way out of the floor. Thomas ambushes it, stabbing it in the back. It whirls, but he's faster this time. A knife to the skull. Done. Charlotte guns down a third. They are a machine. They scramble to move the freezer, and the door opens. It's Paul, covered in blood, standing tall. He killed the chimney monster. He takes Charlotte's gun and starts firing through the floorboards. A horde of creatures is in the basement, and the weakened floor can't hold. Paul stomps. The wood splinters. Dozens of monsters crash through into the crawl space. The few that remain are cut down by the teens. Paul looks at them, a flicker of awe in his eyes. His boys are warriors. Now the final move. The teens and Rocco pile into the freezer. Paul looks at them and slams the door shut. He's staying. He buys them time with a memory, holding his infant sons, whispering, "It's going to be okay." The horde swarms him. He stands his ground as the cigarette burns down, contact. The house detonates in a fireball. The blast sends the freezer rolling like a tumbler down the hill away from the inferno. When it finally stops, they claw their way out. They search the smoldering wreckage for Paul, their hearts breaking, until a flaming monster erupts from the debris. They sprint for the car. It's a chase from hell, a burning demon gaining on them. Charlotte's bullets do nothing. As it leaps for them, she smashes it with the gun itself, sending it crumbling to ash. They drive until they can't anymore. For the first time in their lives, they stop, and they look up. They see the stars. No fear, no walls, just awe. The next morning they return. They don't remodel the grave. They gather what's left. They bury their loved ones. They say goodbye. Then 3 teenagers and a dog get in a car. They don't look back at the ashes. They look forward to the green valley in the distance, and they drive. Not as survivors, not as victims, as a new family, heading for a new home under an open sky.